This is a quick video on calculating the total resistance for resistors in parallel and resistors in series. Now I'm using this question from 2019 higher level short questions to help illustrate how this actually works. So if we start off, there are two equations you need to know. For resistors in series, the total resistance is equal to the sum of all the resistors in a sequence. For resistors in parallel, the equation is a little bit more complex, but it's the same basic principle. So it's 1 over R total is equal to 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3. Now if we take this equation here, there are actually two parts to this circuit here. The first part is this section here. Now if you look in that section there, we have resistors in parallel, so we are going to be using this equation. However, we also have two resistors in series just there, which means we will have to use this equation here. Now once we have done that, once we've calculated that resistance there, that can then be considered one resistor, which gives us one final resistors in series. So there's actually three steps to this particular equation, or to this particular sum. So we'll take our first one first, which is joining the two of these together. So I'm going to call that R5, and I'm going to call this combined parallel resistor R6. So let's have a look at how this is done. So we'll start off by calculating R5. So R5 is equal to R2 plus R3. That is equal to 8 plus 4, which gives us a total resistance of 12 ohms. Now we move on to the overall resistance. So to calculate 1 over R6, that is equal to 1 over R4 plus 1 over R5. That is equal to 1 over 12 plus 1 over 12. That is equal to 2 over 12, which is equal to 1 over 6. And because this is 1 over that, our final resistance is 6 ohms. So there you can see how you calculate resistors in parallel down here, resistors in series just up here. Now our overall resistance, we are told, is our total, which is equal to R1 plus R6, because R6 is our total resistance for these three resistors here. So that is equal to 6 plus 6, which is equal to 12 ohms. Now the other half, or the other part of this question was knowing the voltage and knowing the resistance, what is the current? And for that we are going to use Ohm's law. Now what we know from Ohm's law is current is equal to voltage over resistance. So we know our voltage is 12 volts. We know our resistance is 12 ohms from this calculation here. So that gives us 12 over 12, which is 1. And that is 1 amp, 1A, or 1 amp. Now that is basically how you do resistors in parallel and resistors in series and how you carry out all those equations. So just to review, the first thing I needed to do was join the two of those. So that was my first step. Then I needed to combine these two parallel resistors. So that was my second step. And then finally I needed to work out these here, which is my third step. And that is how that question is answered.